Well, guys, apparently yesterday was Transgender Day of Remembrance, a day that the left loves to virtue signal to the alphabet community. Now, it used to be that the left would actually pander to black people, but those days seem to be over with. Considering what they've actually done. Cities like Chicago, New York, they're throwing illegal aliens into black communities, and black people have pretty much had it. Democrats don't care about you. Hopefully enough of these people actually wake up and realize that when it comes to 2024. But yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre, the affirmative action hire, who is the White House press secretary, went out there, made a virtue signaling statement, and got destroyed. Got destroyed, guys, for this statement on Transgender Day of Remembrance. Completely ignores, the trans shooters that actually killed people, including, the one in Nashville that killed 6 Christians. I mean, Democrats, nothing more than virtue signaling as they actually destroy this country. This is pathetic, guys. But before we get into that, make sure you guys watch it on YouTube here. Become a channel member. Hit that join button. We have member live streams every single Friday just for the members. That being said, let's jump over here. Check this out. This is Karine Jean-Pierre, who is supposed to be the mouth of Biden, okay? She says, today, on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the 26 transgender Americans who were killed this year. Year after year, we see that these victims are disproportionately black women and women of color. Now, here's the thing. 26 total. That's what she's saying right there. Now, the thing is, were these people actually killed because they were trans? They don't tell you that because they don't really have any evidence that they were actually killed because they're trans. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. But also think of this, man. If you just go by the stats, if there's something like 330 million people here in America and only like 0.05% of those people are actually trans, that only comes to something like, 1 million, 1.5 million people, and a grand total of 26 got killed. Yeah, if you do the math, man, that is an extremely low percentage. Now, when it comes to like Chicago, 26 people getting killed, man, that probably happens like in a couple of weeks over there in Chicago. Couple of weeks to a month. Black people get killed. Democrats say nothing. They say nothing, but they want a virtue signal on this. Let's go ahead and listen into Karine Jean-Pierre here. Let's play it.
Now, today, on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the 26 transgender Americans who were killed this year. Year after year, we see that these victims are disproportionately black women and women of color. No one should face violence, live in fear, or be discriminated against simply for being themselves. As the president said, there's still more to do to meet the promise. And it's why this administration has taken urgent action to strengthen rights and protect the safety of transgender Americans and all LGBTQ plus Americans. As we mourn the loss of lives that have been taken too soon, we must also recommit ourselves to never stop fighting until all Americans can live free from the discrimination and also from hate. Now,
yeah, so you heard that right there. Now, I did a little bit of research on this. When they're talking about majority of these people being black, it's something like 62%. But what they're not going to tell you is that probably over 90% of these black people that were killed by other black people. They're not going to tell you that, but that's just a fact. Because white people most likely kill white people. Black people most likely will kill of the black people. They're not going to tell you this. Man, this virtue signaling, man, I'm pretty sure most people probably didn't even know what a Transgender Day of Remembrance was. You probably couldn't even name the date. I couldn't either. I saw this, man. I was like, what? Really? You know, it's just like we're seeing all of the anti-Semitism, you know, especially on these left-wing campuses. Guess what? The Biden administration wants to actually combat Islamophobia, ignoring, you know, the Jews that are getting attacked on these woke campuses. Yeah. But they're ignoring, man, all of the trans people that actually killed other people. Check this out. Billboard Chris here. Look at this here. This Transgender Day of Remembrance, remembering those killed by trans-identified shooters who had their delusions affirmed as a human right. They needed mental help, not lies and love bombs. So right here, look at this one here. Mass shooter. Colorado Springs shooter identified as non-binary, a.k.a. trans. Right there. Mass Denver shooter identified as trans. Yeah. Mass Aberdeen shooter identified as trans. And of course, the Nashville shooter identified as trans. Most people actually know about that one right there. Yeah. And by the way, Corinne Jean-Pierre got ratioed big time here on this video. Look at this. 2,700 likes to 4,400 comments. That is a massive ratio. Then she actually makes another post here and says, no one should face violence, live in fear, or be discriminated against simply for being themselves. Hashtag Trans Day of Remembrance. 315 likes to 367 comments. Yeah, Democrats are taking an L on this one right here. Taking an L. Now back over here, you know, because this is actually a trending. Look at this post right here. Alice Rosen. Happy Transgender Day of Remembrance. And it actually shows the Nashville shooter walking around with a rifle, killing people. Yeah. Well, if you just see the picture there, it's just her with the gun. But this was actually an act of her actually killing 6 innocent people. And look here, I guess that was a response to Beijing Biden, who said, today on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the transgender Americans whose lives were taken this year. There's no place for hate or discrimination in America. No one should lose their life simply for being themselves. That is from Beijing Biden. Yeah. And look here, Ian Miles Chung, right here, lists the victims of the Nashville shooter. Right there. He says, on this Transgender Day of Remembrance, we should offer a memory to the 3 children and adults whose lives were senselessly taken from them by Audrey Hill. Yeah. William Kinney, 9 years old. Evelyn Dykenhouse, I don't know how you pronounce the name, 9 years old. Haley Scruggs, 9 years old. Catherine Kuntz, 60. Cynthia Peake, 61. Mike Hill, 61. All killed by the Nashville trans shooter. Yeah. But the Democrats don't acknowledge them, don't care about them. You know what? It's kind of like the whole George Floyd thing. You know, Democrats love to prop up black criminals to be heroes. They want black people to look up to them. But people like Joe Biden, Corinne Jean-Pierre, never acknowledge David Dorn being killed by a BLM thug. You know what? Because he was an upstanding citizen. They don't want black people to be like him. They want black people to be like George Floyd because they consider, people like George Floyd to be trophies and prop them up. Why do you think George Floyd got statues around? David Dorn didn't have any. None. But That's going to wrap it up, guys. Democrats getting destroyed for this whole transgender day of remembrance. It's backfiring, guys. It is backfiring. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and White Network fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you next time.